Complementary colors are pairs of colors that contrast with each other more than any other colors. And when placed side by side, they make each other look brighter. These are commonly used in graphic design. When you're designing logo, you want to draw a lot of attention, and actually in many other areas of art. If you look at this chart here, you see there is a line that is going across the color wheel to show your complementary colors. Yellow and purple, orange and blue, green and red are complementaries. And if you want to find a complementary color to any of your tertiary colors that are in between the primary and secondary, all you need to do is to draw a line from that color across the color wheel, and you'll be able to see the complementary colors. I included some examples here. This is for red and green. This is for blue and orange. And this last one is for yellow and purple. So basically, if you want to create emphasis and if you want to draw attention to certain areas with the usage of color, here is what you can do. On the other hand, if you use colors that are side by side and they share a lot of similarities and they're not contrasting with each other, they're called analogous colors. And you would use this if you want to create harmony and unity in your art piece. Next item is monochrome. Mono meaning one, and that really means that if you only use one color, variety of the same color, in this example, there are different types of blue, from light blue to dark blue, and this one is from light purple to dark purple. This one is also using different kinds of blue. But these are all monochrome art pieces, and they don't have another color in there with them. That actually brings us to value. Value is basically the lightness or darkness of a color. The easiest way to understand this is to look at black and white. They have the highest contrast. And if this is your white on this side, if you add a little bit of black to it, it becomes a light gray, almost like a silver. And if you add more black, it becomes a little darker, and more black, so on and so forth, all the way until you reach black. And when we talk about value in visual arts, we are really referring to the degree of lightness and the darkness of that color. But that's not only for black and white. You can see that in any colors. Here's an example of using different values of black and white to make a painting. And basically, that's what I just described. This one is a picture of, it's black and white, but it's showing you different values of gray. It's not only for the black and white, as I mentioned. Here are some examples of values and intensity range in colors. So you could have a red that has more white in it, so it's a little lighter in value. Or if you add black to that same red, it becomes darker, right? Or green or yellow and blue and purple. It is the same for all of them. Some examples on photos here, we have different values in yellow. You see they're like really bright yellow all the way to a little darker and a little deeper, moving towards your green. And this one, these are different values of your purple, and the middle picture are different values of blue. A next element of design are shapes and forms. So shapes are referring to two-dimensional shapes. For example, if you consider this as a shape, the line around it. So this is a shape. and or the geometric shape of these pieces. So they could be shape, or even you could just say, oh, there's a shape of a ship all the way. Like you could consider that whole thing as a shape, right? Where forms are referring to 3D elements. Well, maybe before I move on to that, I can just read this out for you. Shape is an area which is defined by value, color, line, or any combination of these. Shapes appears in endless varieties. They may be geometric, circular, triangular, or square. Or they may be organic in forms, curving or irregular. They may have exact limit and be clearly defined, or may be vague and blurred, having no measurable dimension. Two-dimensional shapes have length and width, right? And then three-dimensional shapes are called forms. In art, shapes may be representational, that is, when the artist actually taken an actual form and sketch it exactly the way it is, but it also could be non-representational and could be pure fantasy of the artist. Here are some examples of 2D shapes. We have circles, pretty much everything is circle, different size and shapes of circle. And this one has also some shapes that are like half circles, some squares, rectangles, and triangles. And here are forms. So forms have 3D dimension, right? Like 3D, they're three-dimensional, like a cube, a cylinder, a globe, or you could find natural forms in nature. For your assignments, I just decided to include some of the household items that you could just give you an idea, because I don't think you could actually go to nature right now to find those natural shapes. But I thought inside the house you could find some, there's some vases or cups. This one, because you're looking at it from top down, they're actually like shapes. They don't have any specific forms. They don't appear to be 3D. And these guys, when you're shooting the photo from this angle or looking at it, whether you're sketching or taking a picture, you can see that there are dimensions in them. Here are some more examples. You could just go around the house and find regular items and kind of use them as your shapes or forms, right? Next item is positive and negative space. In this picture, the girl and all this black area are your positive, and everything behind her is negative. In this picture, the tree and all the branches in the background, those are your positive space, and any area, the white and lighter color area in between, those are your negative space. So here's a good description of positive and negative space. In a three-dimensional work, space is created by the object itself, right? So the object itself. If you're creating a sculpture, that is your positive space, right? And it is its relation to its parts and surrounding. So if you're considering this glasses, this is the positive, and the relation between this and everything in this, like in the surrounding area, this is going to be positive. Everything behind it and around it is the negative space. This space around the form or mass is as important as the sculpture itself. Space may be occupied, positive elements in 2D, or we call it mass in 3D, or unoccupied negative elements in 2D, or void, we call it in 3D. And it is the balancing of both type of space that provides unity in a work of art. So you always want to create that balance. Going back to the picture, you want to have a balanced space between positive and negative. Here's an example, a very simplified example of positive and negative, so for clear understanding. So in this picture, on the left hand side, the cat is the positive, and everything behind it is your negative space. On this other side, the black area is your positive, which is the focus and is the cat, and the background, which is a pattern, that is your negative space. More example. So again, in this photo, you have the tree, which is positive, and all these white areas that you can see through like in between the branches, these are your negative. We will have, individual assignments that we would work on these as we go through the course, but it is a good idea to kind of have a general understanding of these, as these are our vocabulary for the course, and they're just gonna surface as we go through the course. So later on when I'm referencing to, oh, look at this positive space, can you do anything about this, or whatever that the conversation might be, you know what I'm talking about. These are our vocab that we gotta go through before we could actually do much in this class. Oh, I forgot to talk about this one. Again, the branches are your positive, and all the black areas in the middle, like in between branches, those are your negative space. Then we also have another topic, or that is depth and perspective. So two-dimensional space or decorative space is the interval between elements on a surface. In three-dimensional art, space is the area enclosed by mass or occupied. The illusion of three-dimensional space on a two-dimensional surface, plastic space, is gained and governed by the use of perspective system. So perspective is another big assignment for us this semester. And the artist creates the illusion of three-dimensional space on a two-dimensional surface through the use of perspective. This may include any of the following: change of size, change of details, location on the page, change of value, overlapping of shapes, and or a linear perspective. Here are some examples. For example, on this one, we have a perspective. The trees are larger at the front, and as they go towards the back, they become smaller. It is an illusion, right? So if you actually stand by any of them, they should be about the same height. But because the picture has been taken from this angle, you see that they're kind of becoming smaller, and that creates the illusion of depth. In this other picture, there are different layers, right? This is your foreground with all the animals, and then this is your midground, and that's your background. And there are several layers to this picture, and that also creates the illusion of depth. If you're sketching it though, there are certain rules that you could follow. Depth and perspective, we got all kinds of assignments coming up for that. But as long as you know that with usage of perspective laws, you will be able to create those dimensions. So this is basically wrapping up our topic for elements of art. And next we'll be talking about the principles of art. That I would kind of record a different video for that, as this is getting a little too long, and I think that should be good enough for now. We will touch base shortly right after. Thank you for watching, guys. See you in class.